During the Second World War, the story begins with the US B-24 Liberators soaring above the Pacific Ocean. Bombardier Louis Zamperini is leading a group of soldiers who are currently en route to carry out a bombing mission on the Japanese-controlled Isle of Nauru. As they get closer to their target, Louis gives the order for the airstrike and his crews carry out the command, successfully dropping the bombs. Shortly thereafter, the aircraft is attacked by multiple Japanese fighter planes, resulting in considerable damage to their aircraft. Pilot Phil informs Louis that it will take approximately 5 hours to reach their base and their brakes are no longer working. The soldiers manage to return to their base successfully, despite being targeted multiple times. Besides their efforts, landing becomes an arduous task due to the numerous malfunctions in the aircraft. As the aircraft lands, the wheels of the landing gear roll out and start screeching on the floor. Despite encountering this obstacle, Phil successfully brings the aircraft to a precise halt at the end of the runway. Following that, the scene shifts to a flashback, revealing a young Italian-American named Louis who resides in Torrance, California. He seems to be a troublemaker who consistently causes problems and is being pursued by the police. Despite his young age, he is already engaged in smoking, consuming alcohol, and even participating in theft. One day, Louis sits beneath the bleachers, observing his older brother's baseball match while enjoying his liquor. After a short while, he gets caught by a guard, so he runs away to avoid getting into any trouble. When his older brother Pete saw him running at an amazing speed, which made him realize his talent to pursue a career in running. Impressed by what he sees, Pete decides to provide support and training for it. After initial hesitation, Louis finally agrees with a little persuasion. Over the years, he worked hard to improve his running abilities and won every competition he entered. At a certain point, he even managed to run a mile race in 4 minutes, setting a new American record for high school students. Due to his remarkable accomplishment, Louis received an invitation to represent the United States at the 1936 Summer Olympics in Berlin. Before leaving, he gives his brother a heartfelt hug and expresses his gratitude for everything. Pete shares a valuable insight, that one moment of pain is worth a lifetime of glory. Subsequently, the story jumps to the day of the Olympics, where Louis participates in a 5,000 meters race. As the race begins, his family sits beside their radios, eagerly waiting to hear him compete. At first, Louis lags behind the other formidable competitors, heightening the intensity of the situation. However, he maintains his determination and puts forth maximum effort, sprinting at top speed and surpassing several runners. Even though he came in 8th place, he managed to break a new world record by completing the last lap in only 56 seconds. He still aims to secure the medal and emerge as the winner in the upcoming Olympics, which was going to be held in Japan, Tokyo in 1940. Unfortunately, the outbreak of the Second World War shatters his dream. Back in the present on successfully landing the aircraft, Louis finds Phil in prayer. He seems to lack faith in God, which is why he doesn't show much interest in prayers. From the very next day onwards, he persists in his training by running alongside a jeep. In addition, he amazes his fellow soldiers in the military by surpassing his previous 4-minute mile record. One day, Louis and his fellow soldiers were assigned a new mission to go on a search mission for a lost airplane and rescue survivors. After repairing the plane with spare parts, they were given the same old aircraft. However, the team, which now includes a few fresh faces, embarks on their mission. The plane's instability becomes apparent in the middle of the flight when one of the engines abruptly ceases to function. In an attempt to make the most of the situation, the aircraft experiences another engine failure, resulting in a crash into the ocean. Consequently, the crash results in the unfortunate death of 8 crew members, leaving only 3 survivors: Louis, Phil, and Mac. They all hop onto the inflatable rafts and spend a while trying to relax. Mac feels completely hopeless and believes that survival is impossible, but the other 2 ask him to maintain a positive outlook. They only have a small amount of food, a few chocolates, and a single bottle of water. Louis then makes the decision to have a single piece of chocolate in the morning and another one at night. Additionally, they plan to limit their water intake to just 2 sips per day. As night descends, they surrender to sleep on the boat, battling the bitter cold. The next day, the 3 friends are woken up by the sound of an airplane approaching. They quickly try to get its attention by using dye and a flare gun, but unfortunately, their attempts go unnoticed. Shortly after, Louis realizes that all of the chocolate boxes are empty as Mac has consumed every single one of them. Despite feeling angry, he chooses not to engage in a fight as he realizes it would be pointless. The three of them struggle to survive in the vast ocean, facing the challenge of going days without any food or water. While they were going through a tough time, a seagull unexpectedly perches on their boat. In order to satisfy their insatiable hunger, they quickly seize and consume the flesh. However, their tummies can't keep it down, resulting them in vomiting. Later on, they come up with another plan. They use the flesh of the seagull as bait to catch fish. Afterwards, they switch places and each of them gets a chance to try the fish, resulting in a momentary feeling of contentment for them. As time passes, their situation becomes more and more desperate. Furthermore, they are battered by a sea storm throughout the night, leading them to feel as though their lives are slipping away from their grasp. In this crucial moment, Louis seeks solace in prayer, promising to dedicate his entire life to God if he saves them. Surprisingly, they are able to withstand the storm and the following day brings rainfall. With joy, they eagerly fill their containers and relish the raindrops descending from the sky. In the following days, they manage to successfully catch a shark, providing them with the vital sustenance they urgently required. On the 27th day of being lost at sea, they catches sight of another airplane up above. They fired their flare gun to get noticed and the plane changed its course, filling them with renewed sense of hope. Unfortunately, their joy doesn't last long as it appears to be a Japanese plane that starts firing at them. In a last-ditch effort to save their lives, they fearlessly plunges into the water, adeptly evading gunfire and defending themselves against the menacing sharks. After a short while, the airplane takes off and then the three of them swim back up. Even though they manage to avoid the danger of their inflatable boat getting damaged by bullets, they quickly fix the holes so that they can stay afloat and protect themselves from shark attacks. As time goes by, the three of them keep spending their days and nights on the tiny boat. It's been more than 40 days since they got stuck in the ocean. Max's condition worsens significantly, leading him to gradually succumb to the pangs of hunger. Louis and Phil carefully wrap his body before dropping it into the water. After that, the remaining two are still holding on to life, but their condition has worsened so much that they can't speak or even stand anymore. After 46 grueling days, they find a ship on the 47th day, but it's owned by Japanese soldiers who capture them instantly. Louis and Phil, who were captured as prisoners of war, are now trapped in individual dim cells on Kwajalein Atoll. They are given a small amount of rice balls to eat, and they eagerly devour them. One day, the two American airmen encounter an interrogation session led by a Japanese colonel, who is determined to extract details regarding advanced bombers and the Norden bomb site. After gathering some information from them, Louis and Phil are taken to a different prison camp in Tokyo along with other prisoners. After arriving at their destination, they discover that they are disoriented in the massive crowd and are subsequently guided to different prisoner of war camps. Louis ends up at Omori Detention Center, where he is placed under the watchful eye of a heartless commanding officer named Corporal Matsuhiro Watanabe. Watanabe believes that every prisoner is an enemy of Japan, so they will be treated accordingly. While Watanabe was going over the prison rules, he noticed Louis staring directly at him. In response, he decided to teach him a lesson by using a sturdy wooden stick to give him a beating. After a day of forcing them to stand for long periods, the recently captured individuals are directed to go to their camp hut, where Louis encounters other American soldiers. The following day, all the prisoners gather on the ground, and Watanabe points out individuals who possess specific skills. After realizing that Louis had a strong athletic background, Watanabe decides to organize a competition between Louis and a Japanese officer. Louis, completely depleted from lack of nourishment, collapses onto the ground, subjecting himself to further beatings. It's clear that Watanabe despises him the most, since he constantly inflicts more frequent and harsh physical attacks on him. Besides facing difficult work at the camp, the American soldiers managed to stay informed about the progress of the wars by clandestinely obtaining newspapers from the Japanese. A Marine soldier is monitoring American positions, but he quickly gets caught by the Japanese soldiers. As a result, he was brutally beaten while Louis and the other prisoners could only watch in despair. A couple days later, Louis gets a chance to send a message back home to let everyone know that he's alive. Turns out that the US government has already designated him as deceased in combat. He agrees to it and is then brought to a radio station where he shares a message with his family. He is also compelled to dishonestly assert that he is being treated well in order to receive some leniency from the American authorities. Louis is finally provided with some delectable food after an extended period of time. However, this act comes with a cost as he is later requested to share another message that promotes anti-American sentiments. Despite the Japanese guy's promise of an incredible life in Japan, he decides to remain steadfast in his beliefs, and as a consequence, he is sent back to the POW camp. Once back, Watanabe tells Louis that he's just as strong as him and that they could have been friends if they weren't enemies. But, since Louis refused to obey the Japanese order, Watanabe decided to make all the prisoners punch him in the face. This punching spree lasts for an entire day, leaving his face bruised and battered. One day, the prisoners are told to put on a Cinderella play to entertain the Japanese soldiers. In the midst of everything happening, Watanabe takes a seat beside Louis and shares some exciting news. He informs Louis that he has received a promotion to the rank of sergeant, which means he will be departing from Amore the following day. When asked to congratulate him on the promotion, Louis remains silent. The life of the prisoners at the camp gets immensely better after his departure. Unfortunately, the moments of enjoyment are fleeting as the Allies opt to initiate an assault on the neighboring city. Consequently, the prisoners are transferred to a different camp, now known as Zoo. When Louis gets there, he suddenly faints when he sees Watanabe, who happens to be the leader of this camp. Watanabe gives the same speech and unexpectedly hits Louis. From the very next day onwards, the laborious work persists and the prisoners are given the task of loading hefty sacks of coal onto the ship, which proves to be even more tiring than it was previously. The bag's weight and their exhaustion together make some guys topple over the railing and meet their demise. One day, Louis, who is extremely exhausted, pauses doing work, so he is brought to Watanabe, who then punishes him by making him lift a large wooden beam and hold it over his head. Despite Louis' struggle, Watanabe orders a guard to shoot him if he drops it. As a result, Louis spends several hours raising it. Despite the physical strain, every prisoner has their attention on Louis, and they support him with whispered cheers. Watanabe expects him to drop the beam, but Louis raises it even higher and confidently keeps eye contact with the sergeant. Watanabe attacks him aggressively, feeling greatly disturbed by his eye contact. The following day, a higher-ranking Japanese officer declares the end of hostilities and directs the prisoners of war to go and cleanse themselves in the nearby river. At first the prisoners thinks that they're going to be killed, but as they step into the water, a bomber plane from America flies above them, showing that the war has finally come to an end. After their victory, all the prisoners are celebrating joyfully, and soon after, the supplies are brought to the camp. Despite the celebrations, Louis tries to locate Watanabe in his quarters, but he seems to have already fled. After that, he sits down and fixates his gaze on a picture of Watanabe during his childhood, alongside his father. Following the conclusion of their ordeal, Louis and the other prisoners of war return to their homeland, where their families eagerly anticipate their arrival at the airport. And here the story ends. Thanks for watching.